Kia ora. So this video is about expanding brackets. So when we're expanding them, we're actually getting rid of the bracket, which is useful in many ways, often solving equations. You want to get rid of that bracket. But if there's a number outside, you must expand it first. The other thing to remind you of is when you're multiplying positive and negative numbers, remember the rules. So a positive times a negative number, positive times a negative number makes a negative number. But if you have two negative numbers multiplied together, you get a positive number. So those rules still apply. At the bottom, I've written the rule for expanding. The number or letter in front of the bracket multiplies everything in the bracket. So in the first example here, the 4 multiplies the n and it multiplies the positive 3. So I have, when I expand that, I have 4 n's and I have 4 lots of 3, which is 12. In the second example, I have negative 2 multiplied by x, so that's negative 2x, and it's a negative 2 times a negative 1. Negative 2 multiplied by a negative 1. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 1 is 2. So positive 2 plus 2. The third example, I've got a negative 2x times 5 is negative 10x, and a negative 2x times a negative, again, a negative times a negative is a positive 2x squared, because x times x, remember, makes a power. The next one, 3p times 2p. 3 times 2 is 6. P times p is p squared. 3p times positive 6 is going to be positive 18p. The next one, the term in front has to multiply everything in the brackets. So it's more practice of that multiplication. Negative 5 times 3 is going to be negative 15g. And a negative 5g times a g is a negative 5g squared. And a negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times 4 is 20. G times g squared is g to the power 3. And the last example, t times 2t is 2t squared. T times minus 5, minus 5t. And then I still have this adding on 8t at the end. So now we have to simplify this because I've got a minus 5t and an 8t. So that's going to be 2t squared plus 3t's. Okay, on the next page, some examples for you to practice. So pause the video, write out the examples and your answers, and then check on the next page for the answer. On the next page here, I've shown you the answers. Hopefully they're correct. If they're not, then send me a note on Classroom. And that's how we expand single brackets.